whatever they call it. This isn't Black Ops. This isn't spy. This
Yeah.
isn't Mossad doing. That's not what this is. When we say he likely worked for Israel or the Mossad or whatever, you can use those terms, but it basically is centered around Israel. We don't mean he was a signed up, long-term, embedded member of Mossad, drawing a Mossad pension, right? That's not what we're talking about. People are using terms loosely, obviously, because of the lack of the type of hardcore evidence that Alex Berenson would like to see, and otherwise it's all nonsense. But we don't need that kind of evidence. Like I said, the people make decisions based on much less evidence, real world decisions based on context, circumstantial evidence, etc. And they vote with their feet on that kind of evidence all the time. So then to demand that evidence, or to say that evidence is no longer good enough in something like this, it's just nonsense. It's hypocritical. It's obtuse. So Epstein was not a Mossad agent. Mossad agents are the guys who engage in espionage or embedded within the US, whatever, working for the Mossad or whichever agency. And the same goes for any other agency. Yes, they're not known. They have fake names. They have fake passports. They're Jason Bournes, let's say, to some extent. Not really like Jason Bourne, but basically. They're completely covert, right? That's been an issue for a long time. Revealing even the names. What do you call her? Journalist woman who was accused of revealing the names of was it over
Valerie Plame?
Yeah, over Libya, right?
Or
was it Libya?
Anyway, Nigeria, yellow cake in Niger.
Exactly, all that stuff. It's so sensitive that you can't even reveal their names, and it's a crime. You can go.
And Libby went to jail.
You'd go to prison for just revealing the names of people, let alone their faces or where they live and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, that's not what we're talking about here in terms of Epstein. This is an Israeli / Mossad, whatever you want to call it, operation that was meant to be public. To a large extent. I mean, it went on in public, obviously, in the sense that, at least in terms of the A-listers and the political and business and academic, whatever, elite, let's say, within everybody, it was all very public. After Jeffrey's name was thrown around left, right, and center, he's pictured at parties and all that kind of stuff. That's not a spy. That's not a Mossad spy.
Right.
It was a different kind of operation, and like I said, the question that people should ask themselves is, if they want to, is imagine none of this is gone. If the RT article asking, was he working for Mossad, or was he an Israeli spy, or did he just look like one? Well, the question is, imagine none of this had happened, and then posit to yourself the scenario where imagine that Israel, given its history and all that kind of stuff, and its relationship with the US and its the Israeli ethos, let's say, the national mythos. Imagine that the state of Israel, or element within the state of Israel, had decided that they wanted to gain control over as much of the American A-lister, academia, business, political, music industry, whatever, celebrity.
Essentially the
elites.
titans of all Western civilization.
Right. If you wanted to gain control over them and have some kind of leverage over them, what would it look like? How would you go about it? And then consider the Epstein situation and see if it fits. Does it fit? Does it fulfill that purpose? So you start out with a premise. And that's the real problem, is like, you're not allowed to posit the premise. The premise is anti-Semitic. The idea that the state of Israel would want to have or gain that level of control over American society in general and politics is in itself perhaps seen as anti-Semitic, because it's, they call everything anti-Semitic these days. But anyway, so the premise is anti-Semitic. So you're not allowed to pose that as a premise. But obviously, that's just stupid, as are so many accusations of anti-Semitism these days. So my point is that it fits what Epstein was doing is one way that you would go about achieving that objective, if that was your objective, if that was your goal. That's clearly what Epstein was doing, fits very well with achieving that objective.
So running with it, then what everyone is interested is going through right now is
it falls apart. It can fall apart. Hold that thought for a second. It falls apart if you deny the premise.
Yeah.
Deny the premise that Israel would ever have any interest in trying to control as much of American society as possible for political, geopolitical, etc. interests, business interests. If you deny that the Israelis have shown any tendency in that respect, and claim it's anti-Semitic just for good measure, if you deny all that, then what Epstein looks just like what the official narrative says he is just some naughty guy who had a proclivity for underage or young girls or whatever, and that was it. And he had a few associates that knew him, but he was also, good businessman, whatever. But it's all just vanilla stuff, right? It's all just common or garden stuff. There's other people doing the same thing. He just got caught. But if you allow the premise that Israel would want to achieve that kind of control over the US, then suddenly what Epstein is doing takes on a totally different flavor, or totally different.
So that would extend to what is happening now. So hundreds of thousands of sleuths online are pouring through 3.5 million files, 2.5 million to come possibly. And what they're doing is, it's true in both senses. They're exposing the global elites for what they are.
Mm. For the
extent of Israel's enmeshment and corruption of said elites. But plugging that into your model, this is serving the long term. This is meant to happen. This is this is not an oopsie. We're all exposed now.
It depends how far you go. You could say that you can try, and they're trying their best. Obviously, people like, what do you call them, Ted Cruz and different people are trying to remove the Israeli angle, the Israeli Mossad involvement angle. You can do that and still not deny that he was entrenched with, because the Epstein files are making it very difficult for anyone to deny that he was entrenched or he was big in with American elite.
Mm-hmm.
American and Jewish, but Jewish American elite, but and that he was just this really guy who was just really driven, really motivated to climb the ladder and get in with people, and he had this particular predatory kind of mindset where he just wanted to be best buddies with everybody, and he just had his own kind of depraved predatory kind of proclivities and sexual orientation, let's say. And there are a few other people maybe who shared that with him, that he met along the way type thing, and they, bonded. Oh, you like, pedophilia, so do I. We should hang out more. Come to my island again. That kind of thing. But other than that, that's it. So it's all contained within America, and Epstein just as an American hanging out with Americans, many of whom were Jewish, but it's anti-Semitic to say that they're anything other than Americans, even if they're Jewish, because they're Americans first and foremost, right? None of them are Israel firsters. The only Israel firsters in America are actually Americans who are not Jewish, apparently, like the Christian Zionists. They're the Israel firsters. I mean, there's the ones who are the biggest supporters of Israel are Americans, not Jewish, apparently. And it's anti-Semitic to say that Jews would in any way be American Jews would in any way be Israel first. The whole thing's ridiculous. But anyway, the point being that Epstein, that's one angle to take. The other angle, obviously, the more logical and rational, I think, angle to take is that Epstein obviously certainly was working in the interests of the state of Israel, because most Jewish people and I hope I can say this without being accused of being antiseptic, most Jewish people, when it comes down to it, their first allegiance is to Israel, or
to each other,
to the Jewish tribe, let's say, and their homeland. When it comes down to it, we talked about this before about how Victor Ostrovsky calling them Sionim, that they can be tapped. Any Jewish person anywhere in the world can be tapped, but that's not, like we said, exclusive to Jews. The CIA can tap any American around the world, in theory. Maybe not quite with such confidence as the Israelis would, but certainly, and the Brits as well, and
the Russians
as well. So
and the Chinese,
right? So the most rational version of this whole Epstein case business is that he was working. It was going on for so long, for decades, 30, 40 years, that certainly he would have been working as an asset of the Israeli government, Israeli intelligence, and that the information he was gathering was used in the service of Israeli interests. And it seems pretty clear that a lot of that evidence was blackmailable, or could be used as blackmail. You have vanilla stuff from financial ties, like we talked about last week, etc., all the way up to more depraved stuff. But that was his job, basically, to go around and ingratiate himself into society. He would have been helped. He would have had money. Obviously, there's a lot of evidence of him receiving money from different places and gaining lots of money in very short order, that kind of stuff. And that, I mean, he's not doing it alone, obviously, because he's working within a clique or a group within American society, particularly politicians and stuff. Like this claim of the extreme claims of satanic ritual and all that kind of stuff don't originate in Israel, or they're not the purview of Israeli Jews or whatever, or American Jews or whatever. It's not a Zionist thing, whatever. There's lots of stuff in European politics.
That giant owl out in the forest of California. Grove, that's wasps.
The Dutroux case in Belgium, all that kind of stuff, So he was in good company, basically, when he set out to do this. And maybe that's why they set out to do it, because look, there's all this evidence that's floating around there. Why doesn't somebody collect it all? Why doesn't somebody use the fact that we know these people are up to all sorts of nefarious things? Why don't we try and
here's an idea.
Collect it? So yeah,
your Bohemian Grove shit the essence of the conspiracy theory is that it's super old. It's eyes wide shut stuff has always been there. It's enmeshed everywhere, right?
Yep.
Here's the idea. The network / Israel has collected a bunch of stuff on it and is threatening to expose it to a Western audience, thus revolutionary action upwards against their elites. They're holding it over these other elites by saying, "We've got you on this now." Yeah. So
they're afraid of the people.
So we need you on Gaza and the Middle East's new design as we see fit.
Greater Israel, whatever.
And global crackdown on, we don't give a shit about your First Amendments and so on. You're going to crack down on speech that we don't like.
Yeah. It all presupposes, like, to make the whole theory kind of fit, it presupposes that in the short term, that there's going to be stuff that we have intimations of them trying to do it, but to kind of clamp down on expression on public opinion, expression of public opinion, the wrong opinion, let's say, and all sorts of other strictures, basically, that are totalitarian in nature. Maybe more wars, all that kind of stuff, more stuff like Israel has been doing in Gaza, that any ordinary person would take a serious stand against. And they want to do all this kind of stuff, and they know that ordinary people would normally take a stand against that, and they would like them not to. Particularly the ones who have the most influence, which is why those are the ones that were targeted by Epstein. So basically, I think what I don't know if we were talking about this last week, but anyway, the idea for me anyway, the only thing that makes sense about the whole Epstein situation and why it's happening now, because ordinarily someone like Epstein would not have ever been in prison, given what we presume is the extent of his his contacts and the people that he was probably working for, that these people have a lot of power, and certainly had more than enough power to keep him out of prison, to put pressure on the Department of Justice in America, whatever, just to make it go away. There's been plenty, like you talked about Hillary Clinton's hit list, right? So if you
there's books written on
if
it.
you subscribe to the idea that Hillary Clinton ordered in one way or another her enemies
56.
enemies to be taken out, people to be killed. So Hillary Clinton indirectly killed 56 people, and she has never
Ever
once set foot in the court for that. But so we're talking about the same level of power or greater level of power concerning Jeffrey Epstein, and yet he ends up in prison and ends up splashed across the newspapers as this pedo, right? But it happens at a time. The first time was 2007. It was fairly low key, but then he actually went to proper prison, let's say, shortly before his so-called death, supposed death. So that all happened within a kind of 10-year period, or whatever. And the point about that was the only thing that makes sense to me is that once having collected enough information on all these people, gained the confidence of all these people, which is what he did. He went around as a wonderful, friendly guy who was willing to take people to his island and give them his jet and, help them out with their finances and have long talks with them about philosophy and science and all that kind of stuff, and talk to men, women, royals, pop stars, politicians, everybody. He was a really great guy. Everybody loved him. Everybody wanted to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. He threw great parties. He was a mover and shaker on the social scene, let's say, for these weirdos. So he gains their confidence. He spent a lot of time gaining confidence, and he had whatever, I don't know if it's personality, I don't imagine his personality, but whatever, it appealed to all these people. He ingratiated himself with them, gained their confidence and trust. A lot of them saw him as a good friend, as evidenced by a lot of the emails where they're writing to him. They saw him as a friend, a trusted friend. And of course, when you see someone like that, then you divulge information to them about your private life and all that kind of stuff. And
Jeffrey, I'm in Moscow. Listen, I've got a situation. Yeah. Bill Gates with the hookers.
Right, yeah, exactly. So Jeffrey, I've got, I need some antibiotics because I've caught an STD from one of your girls. So that implies, obviously he's ingratiated himself, a lot of trust has been built with these people. And then once that trust has been built and he's networked enough in there and not exactly got compromised, but gained the trust of all these people and got their secrets, let's say, as a friend, as a trusted friend, then boom, suddenly he's outed as a sexual predator. And suddenly, all association with him is tarnished for everybody who ever associated with him, because nobody wants to be seen. And you've seen the amount of apologies that have come, or distancing attempts to distance themselves from so many people who were known to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So, well, I didn't know about that at the time, and since then, Trump even, I stopped talking to him, and Steve Bannon and all the rest of them. I never talked to him. After I heard about that, and they did. That's the thing. Like, even after he was out in 2007, wasn't it that he was first accused?
Well, it goes back earlier,
2004 maybe.
The New York Variety.
Well, there was a report on him, but it didn't get any traction. That was the start of the kind of investigation that led
Miami
to him.
Herald investigations.
Right. But it didn't.
But that's the thing. Ordinarily, those things would be killed. Throttled in the cradle in the early 2000s, if it was true or this or that.
Yeah, but essentially was, to a large extent, you know what I mean? Yeah. Nothing came of it, But, so, he's, everybody, once he was outed initially, and it didn't gain a lot of press or whatever, but it was, it was there. And like in 2007, it wasn't a big thing. It was really only... It was a little bit of,
No, it wasn't as big.
It wasn't a big worldwide kind of thing.
But what he got became scandalous. It did then build from 2007 to 2010 when Andrew loses the first titles or privileges as a royal. So those years, in fact, what made it scandalous was the leniency.
Yeah.
What I would think is ordinarily it wouldn't even get to a prosecution. There should be no disclosure. Yeah, these things are killed in the cradle.
So why would you do it? Yeah.
So when the act of going through it and then giving him that easy pass is what gave it legs. And then from 2010 until 19, there's victims civil suits, and they're meeting each other for the first time, and then there's bigger and bigger. There is a photo, unredacted, in the files. I don't have it here, but people can find it. I forget his name too. But he has a correspondence with Jeffrey. He's Jewish, New York lawyer. Palsy, how's it going? Meet up on yeah. Innocuous, no nefarious stuff. But this guy joins the team of attorneys representing the victims in the mid 2010s. And in your model where that's to kill the investigation, you think he's joining to subvert it, to protect his friend Jeffrey in Manhattan. But in the other model we're proposing here, he's actually helping facilitate it have legs. Yeah. He's supporting the victims. He's doing what he's supposed to do as a lawyer. I wish I got it, but hey, there's one email for me that kind of puts a bow on the whole thing. Your ultra conspiracy theorists have been asking this question since July 2019. The why now? Because they know about the strong but circumstantial evidence for past affairs just being killed, Literally, Dutroux had 30 witnesses, police investigators, actual cops who all died tragic deaths around the years of from when the story broke to when it went to trial. By the time it went to trial, it was sanitized, and it was just Dutroux himself, his girlfriend, and this ogre, they called him the ogre, Nihul, who were up for trial. Nihul got off, and he was like boasting in later interviews about what he did. Everyone knew he was a monster, but the official word came down through a court process that he was clean. Anyway, so it came down to lone wolf, and they can do that. They can reduce an entire nationwide, all the aristocracy, the EU, the NATO heads are all meeting and engaged in these sick crimes. They can, if they want, bring it down to a lone wolf, life in prison, done, and kill 30 people in the process. If there's one email from me that says it all, it's this one. When I first thought this, I thought I'm reading too much into it. But since we talked and you posited this kind of alternate model of looking at it, I think it's a fit. It's on the face of it, it's innocuous. It's Bannon and Epstein in 2008. Let's check the dates. It's 2018 or 19. It might even be 19. And this a couple of months before he's arrested the second time. From Epstein to Bannon, that's his reply. Let's ignore the reply at the top for a second. Initially, it's from someone called Robert Grunsky to Bannon, who's then forwarding this to Epstein. It's late 2018, December 6th, 2018. There's no context. There's just the subject line is Alex Acosta update from Powerline. I'm not sure what Powerline is. I think it's like a Washington blog, political blogger. Alex Acosta update. This is before Epstein blows up again with his arrest the next summer. So they're just trading notes here. And we'll scroll down. I'll summarize it quickly. It's an article written about the Florida Attorney General in 2007 who gave the sweetheart deal of a year's house arrest to Epstein, even though there were 50 and it was solid. There were 50 victims and he should have been put away for almost life. And he goes back and forth and he's trying to find out why would Alex Acosta do that? That's crazy. And yeah, he was a serial offender. The case was so strong. That's nuts. So the article is basically a question. Why on earth did the Attorney General of Florida, who by 2018 was Trump's labor secretary at that time when this article was written, how to get away with it? So now you can go back at the top and Jeffrey's reply to this article from Bannon. Do you know Bill Barr? It's obviously a rhetorical question. He doesn't even bother with a question mark. CIA. Epstein is telling Bannon, Acosta did that because maybe not Bill Barr per se, but why otherwise drop his name?
Mm-hmm.
Was helping to arrange that back in 2007. What else can we read from this? Bill Barr isn't in the news again yet. He's not even Trump's AG yet. It was that other guy who Trump hated. That hasn't happened yet in Trump's first term. After this message was sent in early 2019, Bill Barr, becomes Trump's AG. And in July, it's Bill Barr who signs off on the rearrest of Jeffrey Epstein. And he's arrested coming back from Paris on a plane at the airport. The guy's obviously flown around perfectly safe till now. He had no reason to suspect, oh, now I'm being arrested again. Bill Barr. And for me, the reason I say it puts a bow on the whole affair, Epstein's dishing the goods here and gloating as to why Alex Acosta let him off in 2007 is because the CIA protected me. Specifically says Bill Barr did. Now, Bill Barr's Wikipedia entry isn't normally, like we said before, a CIA agent. I mean, you never know who's CIA and not. He is on record as having worked in the CIA in his youth while he was going through law school. But in the Wikipedia bio, it's never said he left, but it's implied that he did because he went into law and ended up twice. He was George H.W. Bush's Attorney General as well, actually. This was his second stint. So Bill Barr then oversees the arrest after, according to Epstein, overseeing the sweetheart deal in 2007. Why? And
Bill Barr was also the one who signed off on the convinced everybody that Epstein's autopsy was that he had committed suicide.
So he gets to oversee that process. And his father is Donald or Ronald Barr,
who
gave Jeffrey Epstein his first job at
and was in
this elite school
SAS, or the original CIA
in the 70s, and he himself is known for being the OSS in World War II. There you have an intergenerational thing. That's a US patrician elite family connected with a guy who's the Israeli side of the same thing. And they're working for each other.
Two cheeks of the same arse, as I say.
So now you have to reframe in your mind in this model that Bill Barr he wasn't a good cop pulling in an elite evildoer working for a foreign government against America because Trump MAGA. No, you got to throw all that out.
Yeah, you burn your asset, basically. Your asset is burned for a particular reason. If your asset is burned by someone else, then you can't do anything about it. But if you yourself burn your asset, you're doing it for a particular reason. And they burned Jeffrey Epstein in order to out him or dox him, let's say, as a
pedo,
as a pedophile, whatever. With that, that's generally understood. That's what people are taking away from it. And then he's someone that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot bar pole. But the problem is everybody had been touching him. You know what I mean? All these elites, these very boring elite, had this fun guy, Jeffrey Epstein, to come in and shake up their lives and make it all interesting, especially like people like Bill Gates and stuff.
By the way, Russiagate had just wound down. Mueller's investigation had just terminated and found the president guilty of nothing.
Right.
And then comes along Epstein Gate.
Right. So the point is to paint, instead of you have all this information on all these different people and how to best use it, well, the best way to use it all at once, let's say. You're not blackmailing them all. You're not sending them letters saying, here's a picture I have of you doing whatever I'm going to send to the press unless you do A, B, or C for me. They don't need that from people. What they need is compliance from these people. All these people that Jeffrey Epstein collected information on, essentially, and got into their confidence. He didn't need anything from them in particular right now, and any particular, maybe here and there you could put, but it's collecting information to pull in, at the very most, pull in favors at a later time. That's what blackmail is for, right? Like, unless you need it immediately, or unless you want to actually destroy the person, then you find the blackmail, you set them up, you get the blackmail, and immediately you send it to the press, and they go to prison, and you're happy because you wanted to destroy that person. He didn't want to destroy any of these people. He wanted to acquire, through ingratiating himself getting into their confidence and trust and all that kind of stuff. He wanted compliance from them. He wanted other people running Jeffrey Epstein, wanted all these people to be good little doggies.
The favor was your silence.
Yeah, and
for now, this time.
Yeah, and the way you do that is by doing, plausibly, the way you can do that is by doing what they did, which is have them all associated with Jeffrey Epstein, then out him as a predator, have them all, oh my God, I have to like backtrack here. I gotta like keep my head down. If I have to, I'll issue an apology for even talking to him, or I didn't know, mea culpa, I'm sorry, or I'll just not say anything if the spotlight doesn't shine on me. But we all know that we all hung out with Epstein, and there's the problem is, at the very least for all of us who may be relatively innocent, there's guilt by association, right? But for a lot of them, I'd say maybe more than people think, there is stuff that could be used to seriously damage their reputations, and even put them in legal trouble. So all those people now that since Epstein was outed, are all on notice basically, that they can be trashed basically. So it's no one saying it to them. They all know. That's the genius of the whole thing. The genius of the whole thing is that no one sent any of those people, and you're probably talking about thousands and thousands of people. Nobody sent them an email warning them, but they all got warned.
Yeah.
Without anybody sending anything to them. All they had to do, the people running Epstein, was to out Epstein, and then all of them get this blanket warning.
They get the message.
They get the message. They're put on notice, basically, without anybody threatening them. And they don't know who's threatening them, but they know what they did. They know what association they had with Epstein, etc., and they know the extent to which they might be implicated if anybody ever decided to shine the spotlight on them. And they don't know who they're dealing with, basically. All they knew, most of them, that they were dealing with Epstein. They don't know who's above him. Now they know there's probably someone above him, and they know they're in danger, and they better just keep their goddamn heads down. And in addition to that, people, it's always seemed strange to me since, especially in the recent revelation, but since the Epstein documents have been released under Trump, why no one is questioning why the only person who was actually dragged into the only member of that cadre of quote unquote elite that got raked over the coals and had his reputation destroyed, and really got it, like short of being prosecuted, which technically
which are calls for
why
now,
he shouldn't be. No reason why he shouldn't be, but certainly in terms of having his whole life ruined, was Prince Andrew. Why only one person? Why him? Was he just expendable? What was the point? Why pick on him? He's just one of a long list of people you could line up, all who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, and probably availed themselves of the same services that Prince Andrew availed himself of, many of them. Well, that's illegal or not.
That his uncle did, that
right.
we know of, and the only reason he came to an end was because the IRA put it to an end.
Exactly.
There was no
so
official.
The question is, why Prince Andrew and nobody else? Well, Prince Andrew serves as an example. Yeah. Do Andrew, just to drive the point home, after all these people have been put on notice because Epstein has been outed, now we're going to show what can be done to them. But again, without threatening them directly or anything like that, just make them afraid and show them what happens. Here's the Prince of England, the Queen's son, the Queen of England, the venerable Queen of England's son, has just had his entire life ruined, let's say, because of this Epstein affair. And all people just immediately think about, that could be me. So I'm compliant. What do you want me to do? I'm keeping my head down. I'm going away. I'm not going to say anything about anything that, whatever the dominant narrative is within the government or the amongst the elite in terms of what they do, the movers and shakers on the planet, basically, who are doing various different things, whatever they want to do, then I'm not going to say anything about it.
There's an added bonus to it.
Maybe I'll be forced to kind of praise it.
He's a royal.
Yeah.
So you further demoralize.
Right.
Not here specifically the Brits, but that extends to, British monarchy is formerly the head of the entire Anglosphere. Much of it.
Exactly. The British monarchy is the only monarchy
you demoralize
left.
Ordinary people.
It's the only monarchy left.
I don't like these. They're all sick.
Yeah. The British monarchy was the only monarchy, certainly in Europe and elsewhere around the world. It's the only monarchy left in the world, literally, that had that kind of prestige. the kind of prestige of old that the royals had, kind of like ordained by God and seen as
Right to rule.
legitimately,
Divine
legitimately
right to rule.
better.
Divine, that's the key part.
Yeah.
Divine right to rule.
Yeah. And demoralizing, taking that away, trashing the royal family to some extent, the image of the royal family. It's a demoralization of at least of the people who, and a lot of people, as much as there might be quite a few British people, English people who would, if you ask them, would say that they don't like the royals, whatever, blah blah blah. They, it is a British institution basically, and
if they didn't, Britain would long since have been a republic.
Yeah, and most of them recognize.
They didn't.
Most of them recognize that. Most English people recognize that the royal family actually is more of a benefit to the UK than it's a problem. You know what I mean? It's only on some political ideology that you'd really have any kind of just some socialist ideology or something like that, or anarchist ideology that you'd have
even
any
the
problem with
socialists in the UK, Labour has always been staunchly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's basically what was going on.
I was thinking Epstein-Barr. I was like, where have I heard that before?
Epstein-Barr virus.
It was the Epstein-Barr virus, which was identified in the 60s. It's a curious thing. It's endemic. Basically, 95% of adults are exposed to it now. It's like one of the herpes viruses. So it's endemic. But it is super associated with numerous... It's oncogenic, which means it's cancer-causing. Multiple sclerosis is probably the cause of that when it's cross-activated with other things. Around about this time, COVID probably in conjunction with Epstein-Barr virus took effect on the population in a big way. The universe maybe has its way of